Number 15. The Elf Man. Redditor Yes I Am the Shipper told a tale of one of the scariest events in his life. It happened around Christmas when he was 5 years old. His grandparents were babysitting him, and he told them that kids in his class didn't believe in elves, so he was going to catch one on camera. His grandma said that he might spot one in the backyard, so he looked out the back window and he did spot something red near the gates. His grandma encouraged his imagination. As the child clocked the red blotch, it came near. It was no longer a blotch, but a short, bald being in a red hat and suit with mean-looking eyes. He inched closer, and the child shouted for his grandma and pointed the figure out to her. I remember her face contorting into one of slight horror, and she pulled me back from the curtains, he writes. His grandma said, "That's nice, dear, but elves don't like seeing children because the children can't see Santa and his helpers." She closed the curtains, locked the door, and the next time the OP looked, the man had vanished. Was he an elf or a short-statured man trying to burglarize the house? I guess we'll never know. Number 14. Mall Santa. Redditor Story for No Sleep submitted this story 6 years ago. The OP's paternal grandmother was visiting in December 1985 when she was 6 months old. They were going to bring the baby to see Santa at a local mall for her first Christmas. But as they were preparing to leave that night, Grandma suddenly got cold feet. She felt a strong feeling of foreboding and begged everyone not to leave the house. Thankfully, they listened, because not even an hour later, a plane landed into the roof of the very mall they were about to visit. The Sun Valley Mall sent blazing roof material raining down upon those parents and children who were waiting in line to see Santa. The scene was horrible, many were hurt, and some passed away far too soon. The OP lived to tell the tale. I was supposed to be in that line at exactly the time the plane hit, she writes. No one knows how Grandma sensed it, but I'm sure they were very relieved that they never left the house. Number 13. Christmas Ghost. The following scary Christmas story was submitted by Arthur H. to the Stir.cafe mom. Arthur was very close to his mom, who passed away when he was only 17. He moved away from his hometown that year. 5 years later, he married Karen, and a year after that, they were pregnant. They lived in a small bungalow with a fireplace that they lit every night. On Christmas Eve of that year, the fire was glowing. The gifts were beneath the tree, and days before, one of the strings of flashing lights on the tree had frozen in place. Before midnight, the fire diminished suddenly to a small ember glow, and the frozen lights began to flash. While the other flashing strings stopped, the temperature in the room plummeted. Arthur and his wife were sitting on the floor, and in the lazy boy chair sat Arthur's beaming mother. Arthur's wife also saw her, though she'd never met her. The ghost just sat there smiling, as though she was basking in the glow of her son and his new family. She never said a word. At midnight, the fire roared in the fireplace again, and the flashing lights froze. While the other strings started up, his mother's ghost vanished, and the lights did not flash ever again. Number 12. Emergency Room. Brian Moyland of Gawker tells of this Christmas horror story which began a few days before Christmas at his parents' house. He felt that something was wrong, and he warned his mother that his appendix may burst. She thought he was crying wolf, so she ignored him. She was one of those Christmas freaks who adores Christmas more than life itself, and she didn't want him to put a damper on it with any real problems. So Christmas Day came around, gifts were opened, Christmas dinner was eaten, and suddenly Brian felt a shooting sensation in his side. When it was more than he could bear, his mother finally took him to the hospital. The doctor found that Brian was passing a kidney stone. They waited too long to take him in, and so all he could do was wait it out. Although Brian could have held a grudge against his mother for years, he figures she probably served her time. The moral of the story: Christmas is not more important than your kid's kidneys. Number 11. The Nightmare Before Christmas. Redditor Disner submitted this 100% true Christmas story in 2014. The OP was an only child, and his single mother often worked nights, which meant he was home alone a lot. On Christmas Eve one year, when the OP was 12, his mom was working overtime. The OP thought it was a great idea to watch some scary movies that night. Suddenly, at 1:30 in the morning, a man banged on the front door saying, "Ho ho ho, let Santa Claus in." The Santa Claus even knew the OP's name and began beating on the door violently and trying to open it. Disner snuck to the bathroom window to scope out the so-called Santa. As the man's voice grew angrier, he couldn't see the man, but there were no strange cars around. "Let me in, Disner, or I'll have to put you on the naughty list," the man said, asking if he wanted presents while kicking and slamming against the door. Luckily, a neighbor pulled into the drive opposite and the man stopped banging and ran down the street. The OP went out and asked his neighbor if he saw the man, and he said he had seen him but didn't realize what was happening. If he hadn't shown up in that moment, it's safe to say that something nightmarish was about to happen. Number 10. Christmas Shopper. There's no bigger nightmare than Christmas shopping. And Redditor and fellow YouTuber Killer Orange Cat has plenty of holiday horror stories to tell. One of them happened when he was employed as an assistant manager at a bookstore. He was closing one night and he allowed the workers to head home. He was in the back office completing the books when the doorbell rang. When he went to see who was at the door, he was met by a man dressed in dark clothing with a hood on. The man said, "Hey dude, I left my wallet in your store. Can you open the door and let me come in and get it?" He said he'd look for the wallet for him, but the guy said he wasn't sure where he left it. He asked if he'd bought anything, and the guy answered in the affirmative, which suggested that he had his wallet on him at checkout. According to the OP, the guy was taken aback when he said this, and he pulled his cell phone out like he was going to make a call. To whom? Who knows? He became furious and insistent, but the OP stood his ground and said he couldn't let him in so late. The man said he'd call the police and claim that he had taken the wallet. The OP responded that all he could do was take the man's information. The man started shaking the door when the OP himself said he'd call the police and headed over to the register to do just that. The hooded man bolted, figuring the ordeal was over. He spent 2 more hours finishing his work, locked up, and then headed out. As he was approaching his car, he saw someone hiding in the back seat. It was the hooded man. The OP raced back to the store with the hooded man chasing him and just managed to get inside before the man arrived. He wrestled the door away from the hooded man, and the man took off, but he quickly called the police, and they were able to take the suspect into custody. Number 9. The Returned Relative. A contributor to ThoughtCo by the name of V, Paige offered up this tale of Christmas fear. When visiting her aunt's house on a North Dakota reservation, 12-year-old Paige was doing a puzzle with her aunt and uncle while everyone else was scattered around the house. Her cousin was scheduled to arrive home sometime around midnight. When her cousin arrived, she saw Paige at the table through the window with her uncle on the opposite side. The cousin also saw a person in the corner of the room and another standing to the left of Paige, petting her hair lovingly like a mother would her child's. She entered the house and asked who had been standing in these 2 places. When Paige answered that no one had, the cousin said, "Yeah, there was someone standing next to you. It looked like your mom and she was playing with your hair." The cousin continued to insist that someone had been there. The cousin's mom had passed away several years earlier, about a week prior to Christmas. So they all began to consider that maybe her ghost is who the cousin saw standing over Paige's shoulder. But who was standing in the corner? That's a Christmas mystery. Number 8. Christmas Church Ghost. The author of this true scary Christmas story goes by the name of Paulina. Paulina wasn't the type to believe in the paranormal, but after this incident happened on Christmas, she became a believer. She was in Samoa in her mother's small village for a visit one Christmas. She was only a knee high, so she tailed after her older cousin during their nighttime game of hide and seek. All the village kids would play this game in a graveyard. The church lights shone dimmingly on the gravestones, so there were plenty of shadows to hide in. Paulina was hidden in one of these shadows. When the boy, who was it, came to find them, everyone grew quiet. The boy went into the church to look for his brother, who he thought was inside. As they waited and waited and waited for the boy to come and seek the hiders, someone finally went in to check on him and discovered that he fainted. They ran to his parents' house and brought them back to the church, where the boy was still stiff as a board on the ground. The boy later told them that he'd entered the church and spotted a boy standing in front of the altar. The boys backed toward him, thinking it was his brother, hiding in the church. The seeker ran towards him and tapped his shoulder. When he did, the ghostly boy vanished into thin air. That's when the seeker fainted. They found out the boy's brother hadn't been in the graveyard at all. He'd been at home. The group never played in that graveyard again. What really scared us, Paulina writes, was that the boy who fainted has been ill since that night, and he still hasn't recovered to this day. Whoever it was in the church must have been pretty mad that we kids had disturbed him. Number 7. Father Christmas. Santa is a jolly man to most, but to 14-year-old Magda, he is frightening. Magda is Polish, and when she was 7, living in Poland with her family, she couldn't fall asleep on Christmas Eve because she was too excited for Santa's arrival. She finally went to bed around midnight, but she still couldn't fall asleep. She was going crazy and kept tossing and turning as many youngsters do with the delight of Christmas ahead of them. Her family was visiting relatives, and in the guest room she was staying in, a large wardrobe stood. She stared at it for a time, which is when she saw an image in the mirror. In her own words, "I began to see what vividly looked like Father Christmas. The reflection was of a man dressed in red, white-bearded, the whole works." Magda stared at him for what she felt was an eternity. She was frozen and holding her breath. That's when her dad walked in to wish her good night. Fear was plastered all over her face, and she pointed at the wardrobe, where she still saw Santa. Her dad couldn't see what she was pointing out and just looked at her as though she was crazy. Magda began to cry and raced to the kitchen, where she told everyone who gathered what she'd seen. They said it was her overactive imagination, and she was just too excited about Christmas. To this day, Magda wonders, was it really Father Christmas, or was it an evil spirit trying to get through to her by pretending to be him? Number 6. Here We Come a Wassailing. This is a Christmas carol with a truly unfortunate origin story behind it. The UK version of the song has the carolers requesting some coinage and drink from their hosts as they carol from door to door, all in good fun and cheer, right? Wrong. The wassailing tradition has some darker origins that date back to feudal England. English lords ran large estates, with plenty of peasants serving them. Wassailing was a way for the lords and ladies of these large manors to provide some little food and drink to their underlings during winter, essentially in order to stamp out resent and rebellion from the lower classes. Here We Come a Wassailing itself was specifically sung by young orphans and beggars on the English streets during the holiday season as they looked for handouts. So, when you're out caroling this holiday season, consider the origins of this sad song, and instead of accepting cocoa and cookies from your hosts, start a rebellion. Number 5. Poltergeist. Caitlin Williams submitted the following true scary Christmas story to ThoughtCo. She and her parents lived in the small town of Bluffton, Indiana, in a house that was going on 90 years old. Caitlin lived there for 12 years and always sensed that she was being watched. There seemed to be another presence always at home. It was the Christmas season and a friend was over. They were watching television when the temperature seemed to plummet and the Christmas tree started to shake. The shaking was so disruptive that ornaments fell from the tree. Needless to say, the girls were scared out of their minds. They raced upstairs and hid on her bed, Caitlin's white cat accompanying them. In the dark hall outside of her bedroom door, Caitlin saw a tall white figure sweep through the hallway. Her friends saw the same thing. Caitlin developed a chronic illness years later, and frightening things began to occur in the house again. She thinks it had something to do with her illness. After coming near passing away twice, I began to be able to sense things that no one else could, she writes. She also started feeling the same sensation of being watched. I ignored it this time and the illness went into remission. The paranormal activity ceased again, but when she turned 18, the paranormal came barging back into her life. She heard voices, like a badly tuned television at strange hours. Then she began to see shadowy figures. Most were shaped like humans. Her cat seemed to sense them too. On one occasion, the normally calm cat began to hiss viciously at a dog-shaped shadow that raced down the hallway. She also started to feel a dark aura blanketing the entire house. It felt heavy and wouldn't go away. Lights would sometimes turn on and off of their own accord. Invisible figures would sit on a chair in her bedroom. She could hear them recline and see their imprint on the chair. When they finally moved out of the house, Caitlin felt lighter. She started to think that maybe it wasn't the house, but rather her own meddling in the paranormal that had welcomed creepy shadows into her life. But then she returned to the house to collect her things one night, and she saw a dark figure sprint through the yard. She drove off and never returned. Number 4. The Huron Carol. Most of us sing Christmas carols with glee, but one Canadian favorite entitled "'Twas in the Moon of Wintertime" or The Huron Carol has a dark history. As one of the earliest Christmas carols written in North America, if not the earliest, the Huron Carol was a collaborative project between the Huron natives and a French missionary in the 17th century. The missionary traveled to Quebec in 1625, where he stayed to minister near Lake Huron in a wigwam. He lived off and on with the natives there for 16 years. While he was there, the Huron tribe began a battle with the Iroquois. 2 other missionaries were captured and snubbed out, but he managed to stay afloat. He wrote the Huron Carol with the Huron tribe in 1643, but sadly, in 1649, he was captured by the Iroquois. He was gruesomely martyred, which included a mock baptism with boiling water. Number 3. Blinding Light. One true scary Christmas story that actually happened was told by Scarlett on the Stir.cafe Mom. It was Christmas 2008. The day began like any other normal Christmas might in Bloomington, Indiana. Presents were opened, dinner was served to friends and family, and guests left around 5 p.m. Apart from Scarlett's sister and her brother-in-law, as they shared the house with her. At around 7 p.m., Scarlett took her dog Toby to her bedroom and shut the door to go to sleep. She thought about what a lovely Christmas they just had, but wished her departed brother and mother could have been there. As she was falling asleep, she heard the latch to her door click. It was dark as night in the room, and she waited for her sister to speak, as she assumed she'd come to ask something. The kitchen lights were left on, as well as the Christmas lights, so whoever was standing at her doorway would be well lit. She lifted her head to look, pushing the blankets back. A bright, blinding light hit her square in the eye sockets. "Turn out the light," she said. "You're blinding me." The light shut off and the door latched. Scarlett tapped on her bedside table touch lamp and looked around the room. Toby scrambled off the bed and calmly walked to the door. So Scarlett went to take Toby outside and check in with her sister to see what she wanted. Both her brother-in-law and sister were in bed. No one was in the hallway. No one was in the living room. So what was that? Who blinded her? As Scarlett writes it, "I would like to think it was my brother Spirit stopping by to say Merry Christmas. I still think of you too." Number 2. Krampus. Santa Claus and his workshop elves are Christmas characters that brighten the season, but did you know that some countries commemorate Christmas characters that will have you dreading more than cold during the holidays? Germany is one of those countries, and Krampus is who you should be dreading. The name Krampus has its roots in the Germanic for claw. The demon character preceded Christmas altogether, having originated in a time before Christ. Today, however, he is known as the anti-Santa, and basically Santa's evil sidekick. Traditionally, while those who were good were given treats by Santa, those who were more naughty than nice were treated to a strong-handed Krampus whipping with a stick. And if they were horrible little human beings, they were taken by Krampus and either thrown in a river or taken to his lair, and who knows what happened to them there. As the times became more politically correct, many countries started burying Krampus into extinction, right where he probably should be. Austria, for example, got rid of the creature in the 50s, saying it wasn't healthy to plant this terrifying monster in children's heads. Other places, however, like Lissandro, Italy, for example, still celebrates Krampus, even going so far as to dress up young men to chase little children around. They make a night of it, having a drink with the adults afterwards. Krampus even has his very own holiday celebration and greeting cards in some places. As one real-life witness tells it, one of the scariest childhood experiences Austrian children have is being chased by Krampus. As she wrote it, the men dressed like Krampus when she was young, jumped fences and ran through backyards, and Krampus just kept coming after them. When he catches you, he usually gives you a pretty good whipping around your legs. Christmas never sounded so scary. Before we get to number 1, my name is Chills and I hope you're enjoying my narration. If you're curious about what I look like in real life, then go to my Instagram at DylanIsChillinYT and tap that follow button to find out. I'm currently doing a super poll on my Instagram. If you believe ghosts are real, then go to my most recent photo and tap the like button. If you don't, DM me saying why. When you're done, come right back to this video to find out the number 1 entry. Also, follow me on Twitter at YTChills because that's where I post video updates. It's a proven fact that generosity makes you a happier person, so if you're generous enough to hit that subscribe button and the bell beside it, then thank you. This way you'll be notified of the new videos we upload every Tuesday and Saturday. Number 1. Gryla. Germany is not the only culture with some crazy scary Christmas creatures. Iceland also celebrates a lady ogre by the name of Gryla. Like Krampus, Gryla doesn't like naughty children. In fact, she eats them for dinner. John Arneson describes Gryla as follows. Gryla has 3 heads and 3 eyes in each head, horribly long curved fingernails, icy blue eyes at the back of the head. Her ears dangle down to her shoulders and are attached to the nose in front. She has a beard on her chin that is like knotted yarn on a weave with tangles hanging from it, while her teeth are like burnt rocks in a grate. As with Krampus, Icelandic people soon came to their senses and decided not to frighten all the children of Iceland out of their wits. So they issued a decree outlawing Gryla from the land, or the tradition of her anyway. In fact, songs were written about Gryla, claiming she had passed away. Other songs, however, hint that she could return. Seems that Iceland doesn't want to eliminate her completely, got to instill a little fear into the bad children. Thanks for checking out this video. Be sure to subscribe because we upload new countdowns every Tuesday and Saturday. Or if you're still not convinced, here are some of our other videos that I think you'd like. Enjoy!